Play as Jean, a thief with the mystical power of morphing with the shadows, creating yourself an improbable path in the dark, and carefully dealing with guards in the light. You will try to steal back your deceased brother's paintings. Do you have what it takes to avenge his legacy? This is Shadow Burglar. Once again, in this review, we will be focusing on the 5 T's of stealth: tasks, terrain, tools, threats, and tension. Reference episode 1 for a bit of a more in-depth explanation on the 5. These are what I consider to be the fundamentals of stealth gaming, and today we will be discussing the 5 T's of stealth as they pertain to Shadow Burglar. In the aftermath of the war, Jean, a mighty thief, leaves her criminal organization to pursue her personal goal: recover the paintings of her brother. She is willing to do whatever it takes to get them back and avenge his legacy. Unfortunately, this information seems to only be present on the Steam page. After playing through this game a couple of times, I didn't grasp some of this information at all. I had no idea Jean left her criminal organization, or even that she was a part of one. I had no idea that some war had just ended. But recovering the painting of her deceased brother was very clear as the main objective. In Shadow Burglar, there are 3 missions, each feeding into the overarching goal of recovering Jean's brother's paintings. The first 2 missions are in pursuit of the paintings, while the third is actually recovering the painting. There is this weird connection between Jean and her deceased brother, but there doesn't really seem to be any clarification on how or why this is occurring. But it doesn't really negatively impact the experience, as their discussions from the afterlife are decent enough. All 3 missions of Shadow Burglar occur in different unique locations. However, the feel of all 3 maps is more or less the same. Tight corridors and a very linear structure eliminate the ability for the immersive sim element of solve missions your own way. I fully believe everyone who plays this game is basically going to experience it in the same way, as there is not a lot of room for creativity. The first mission occurs at a train station, while the second and third occur on a boat, presumably some sort of cruise ship, and they occur on different levels of said cruise ship. Again, while the locations were somewhat diverse, the layout within each made them feel close to the same. The main mechanic or ability present in Shadow Burglar is Jean's ability to morph with the shadows. This is done automatically whenever you walk over any shadow in the game, and you cannot choose to refrain from doing so. Naturally, any sort of light source will affect this and pull you out of the shadows. While in your shadow form, you have a variety of options. Scattered throughout the missions are these shadow circles, which can be thought of as teleporters. Wherever these circles are present, if Jean is in a shadow, then she can jump or blink to this circle, even if they are separated by light or a gate. But again, only if Jean is currently in a shadow. You cannot blink from the light. In the same vein, Jean can also teleport to the shadows at the feet of her enemies. There's something very special about hiding in someone's shadow as they walk around the map clueless to your presence. Another option, if present on the level, Jean in her shadow form can travel through vents, which sounds like it shouldn't require a shadow form. However, these vents are blocked by vent doors or gates on each side, making them impossible to travel through without shadow powers. The last shadow ability present is the bread and butter of stealth, the takedown. When in her shadow form, and only in her shadow form, Jean can sneak up on an enemy and proceed to pull them into the shadows. Extremely badass. This can even be done while in the shadow at your enemy's feet, but only if they're within another shadow. If eliminating this enemy would put you in the light, then it cannot be done. I want it to be very clear how important it is to differentiate between shadow form and, well, normal form, or I guess, human form. However, in either form, general movement feels very solid. When you are in human form, your options are extremely limited. In fact, I believe there are only two things Jean can complete in human form, but not in shadow form. The first, Jean is able to operate a light switch. Truly incredible, really. The second, Jean can push or pull carts in certain locations, which will alter the shadows in that area. Last but not least, in various locations around the levels, Jean can use a gramophone to attract the attention of the guards. She can actually activate this in either form. The only enemies present in Shadow Burglar are once again what I consider to be basic or standard enemies. These enemies can detect you, and some of them are equipped with a portable light source, which can temporarily impact some of your hiding places, or even completely pull you out of the shadows based on where they are looking. If you are spotted by one of these enemies at any time, it is an immediate game over. No running, no escaping, just a restart from checkpoint. These standard enemies have a pretty average level of detection, I would say. It seems making any sound is completely irrelevant, except for with the gramophone. On the other hand, if they start to see you, usually they will fully lock on, depending on how far away you are. The only other thing that may somewhat be considered a threat or obstacle is the very light puzzling present throughout the game. This is very simple stuff. As mentioned in tools, this typically just means when do I turn the light on or off, and where do I move the cart. I like the tension present here in Shadow Burglar, even if it's pretty minimal. For another short experience, it has a pretty solid gameplay loop. It's not exactly difficult, but any slip up will instantly fail you, and honestly, I like that. There are severe consequences for your failures, and that is how you do tension on a basic level. I think where this game really shines is in its shadow mechanics. Now, I of course cannot talk about this game without at least mentioning Erebon Shadow Legacy, another game I played earlier this year, but unfortunately will most likely not have the time to go back to make a review. Erebon also uses a shadow mechanic, however, it does slightly differ, which we won't dig into. In Erebon, your character has many more tools and is much deadlier, which honestly made the game feel much too easy. Here in Shadow Burglar, your tools are severely limited, and without the shadows, you are basically helpless, which I can really appreciate. It's rather satisfying to know when you're in your element, your power is overwhelming, but take away that environment and you're just an ill-equipped thief. So, all in all, I think this game is pretty damn solid. The tools feel absolutely great, and I'd love to see them expanded on in a larger experience. A lot of the plot and lore can feel a bit unexplained and all over the place, but truthfully, for a short experience like this, it's not too big of a deal. My biggest complaint or critique would simply be the level design. The terrain does not really do that much for me. A big part of stealth, in my opinion, is finding your own creative way through a mission. With how linear this game is, it's now basically telling you what to do and how to do it, which can really negatively impact that feeling. In a shorter experience like Shadow Burglar, it's not much of a loss, but if they were to expand this game past a student project, I would really like the level design to be improved upon to eliminate the repetitive feeling. I would absolutely tell any fan of the stealth genre to go and download Shadow Burglar today, especially at that free price tag and low time commitment.